Welcome to topic 5 of the Introduction to Python. And this topic has two subtopics, and those subtopics are while loops and lists. Okay, so the first topic, while loops. A while loop is similar to a for loop that we looked at in topic 4. The only difference really is that a while loop will keep running until a condition becomes true. So looking at this flowchart here, we have a starting state, then we enter the body of the while loop, okay, and while something is true, we'll just keep doing it, okay, and then when that thing, that condition becomes false, we can leave the while loop. So you imagine the computer's coming along, it's traveling down, oh, stop, it's hit a while loop. Let's keep going round until some condition is met. Okay, and I'll give you an example of what those kind of conditions could be. They're not too dissimilar from the conditionals that we looked at in a previous topic. So here's an example of a while loop. Okay, we have a variable here called myNumber, and it's set to a value, an integer of 1. Okay, we've just assigned it with the equals operator there. Now, the keyword while means we're going to wait to start a while loop. Okay, while myNumber, so while this number here, in which we've stored the integer 1, is less than 6. So we know already 1's less than 6, but while that's true, while that's the case, here's what we want you to do. Print myNumber out, and then add 1 to myNumber. And going back to our flowchart, okay, keep doing that until the number reaches 6, okay? Or while it's less than 6, keep doing it, okay? While the number is less than 6, keep doing this, and then you can leave the loop and head on to the next line of the program, which in our case happens to be the end of the program, okay? But there could be, imagine there's hundreds of lines here, and here's the computer. Let's do that, do that, do that, do that, do that, stop. While my number is less than 6, here we go. Add 1 to my number, add 1 to my number, add 1 to my number, check it, add 1 to my number, check it, add 1 to my number. Is it still less than 6? When it reaches the stage it's not less than 6, let's exit the while loop and keep going. Next line, next line, next line, keep interpreting. Okay, so we can easily put this together as a Python program. Okay, let me just minimize this so we can see the example there. So let's create a variable called my other number, very imaginative name, okay, is equal to 100. And then let's do while and see idle turns this orange because it's a keyword, okay? While my other number is less than, okay, let's say less than 200, because we know 100 is less than 200. Now, the important bit here is we do the colon symbol, and this means we're about to tell Python what this condition is. Okay, so while my other number is less than 100, press return, and idle is indenting this for us. Okay, let's do print, if we could spell print. Okay, is this high enough? Okay, comma, and then we're going to print my other number. Okay, so while my other number is less than 200, print, is this high enough, my other number? Now, what would happen there is that would just print, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to take my other number and we're going to add, let's add 2 to it rather than adding 1. Let's make it a bit more exciting. So we'll do my other number. Now, there are 2 ways we can write this, okay? The long way and the short way. So I'll show you the long way first. My other number equals my other number plus 2. And let me fix the typo there. Okay. My other number is equal to the value in my other number plus 2. We don't want to do that though. We want to write it in a nice, easy Python way. And the shortcut for this, okay, which means exactly the same, is just my other number, okay, plus equals 2. There. That means exactly the same as my other number equals my other number plus 2. Okay, shortcut, my other number plus equals 2. Right, let's run this program and see what the expected output is. So let's press F5 and it'll ask me to save it. I'll click OK and I'll call this while my number less than 200. Okay, while my number less than 200, save. Okay, let's have a look at the shell. Okay, interesting. Look at that. It's printed out 100 and then it's adding 2. Okay, this is sometimes called an accumulator variable here. All right, if we do that, technically we should have another variable called an accumulator, but what we're doing is we're adding 2 to this every time. Okay, and look, it stops 2 away from 200, because if we were to add 2, it wouldn't be less than 200, would it? It would be equal to 200, and that would not be true in the while loop. So basically the computer is going to come in here, okay, it's going to start off interpreting this line. Then it's going to be like, right, I now have a box in the memory called my other number, and inside that box I've put the value 100. Okay, fine, I'm finished. No, I'm not. Keep reading. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Ah, here we go. While. Right. While this variable is less than 200, print out this statement and add 2 to the variable. And this is the output that we get here. Now, we can do, just for illustration purposes, I can show you what it's like if you add 1 to it. So let's press F5 to run. Click OK. And here we go. It adds 1 all the way until it gets to 199. Okay, and we can make this a very big number. Okay, we could make this like 9999. Okay, and let's say we want to make it jump higher. Let's make it jump in 6s. Okay, click F5, click OK, and I'll kill it here because it's going to run for too long. So let's stop, stop, stop. Okay, I think I managed to stop it. I can probably just close the window, but let's just leave that running in the background. What that's doing is that's adding 6 to this variable until it'll get there eventually. There it is, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. So what's the key takeaway from this? The key takeaway from this is, and look, there's where it stopped. 9994, 6 away from, it's the closest number. What if we add 6? If we were to add another 6, we would go up to 10,000, and that would be too high. Okay, so the key takeaway from this is we will keep doing something until a condition becomes true. Okay, so here's an example output. While my number is 1, while it's less than 6, just keep adding with plus equals 1 until it's no longer going to be true that it will be less than 6, because if you add another one on here when it's 5, it will be 6 and it won't be less than 6 anymore. Okay, so here's a thing that you sometimes see in programming, and this is called an infinite loop, a non-terminating loop. It means it will run forever. Now, some examples, there might be some times where you might want a loop to run forever. For example, when you start up a computer or start an operating system, if you have a program running, you'll have a main loop that will keep that program running forever. You don't want that to run until you tell it to stop running. Okay. Likewise, if you want some kind of a system to check something, pinging an IP address, for example, you might want that to keep running. So this is called an infinite loop. True will always be true. Okay, so we can say while true. We can also do something like, and forgive me if I mess this up, but let me try and think of a strange example, okay, or an example that will illustrate this. So my other number is 100. So we could say, while my other number is equal to 100, okay? And remember, to say is equal to, we do two equals. To assign, we do one. To say is the same as, we do two equals. So while my other number is 100, okay, and maybe actually I should put this into a new loop so we can have a wee example underneath. So let me just comment this one out, because otherwise it's going to print forever. Let's have another example under here. So let's do, while my other number is the same as 100, print it is still 100. Okay, and then let's not add anything to it. Okay, and let's see what happens if we run this. Click OK. There we go. It's still 100. Now this will run forever now, provided the, and this will run it because this condition is always going to be true, isn't it? It's an infinite loop. It's always going to be 100. I don't know what would happen if we change it up here while the program's running. It'd probably chuck some kind of an error, but let's change it to 99 and then let's rerun the program. And it just ends because my other number is never 100. Okay, let's put back to, well, my number is 100. It's still 100 even after all this time. Still 100. Okay, let's run this. Okay, it's still 100, and it will always be 100 forever because it's an infinite non-terminating loop. So there's let me just run this again to stop it. Okay, so there's a couple of examples of while loops. Now, a while loop, not too dissimilar to an if statement, can have an else condition as well. So we can have while a count is less than 5, print is less than 5, add 1, and we're writing it out the long way there. Else, we could print it's not less than 5. Okay, so going back to our example, we could add an else statement. So let me comment out this. Let me just put a wee comment here and say this is a non-terminating loop. And let's take our code from here and let's make we call this a while number example. Let's make another one and let's call this a while else loop example. Okay, so let's make these numbers a wee bit more sensible. So let's just call this 10. While my other number, and let's make my other number 20. While my other number is less than 10, and it's 5, so it's less than 10. Print, okay, and let's do print it is less than 10. Okay, and print my other number. And then we'll add 1 to it. Okay, so my other number plus equals 1. So the best thing to do now is let's not keep writing code. Let's run this and see what the output is at this point. So let's run that. Okay, so it's going is less than 10. It is less than 10, and its value is 5 because we set it up here to 5. Then it's adding 1, adding 1, adding 1, adding 1 until if it was to add 1, the condition would no longer be true. It wouldn't be less than 10. So now, as per the example here, let's add an if condition, an else condition. So let's go here, let's do else, okay, and let's do a colon, and then press return to say we're about to enter some code. Let's do print. Okay, so it is less than 10. Let's do it is equal to or greater than 10. Okay, let's run this then. It is less than 10, or we could say That sounds a bit better. Let's run that. Okay, and let's have a look at the output. So we've got it's less than 10, it's less than 10, it's less than 10 up to 9, and then it's not less than 10 if we keep adding 1. Should probably put the word 1 there. If we keep adding 1, and let's run this. Click OK. So what this else statement is this is a statement to jump to once this condition has been met. Okay, so jump into the while, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, this is fine. It's not less than 10 anymore. Let's go to the else and do this. Okay, so there's an example of a while with an else. So 3 different examples of while loops there. We've got the non-terminating loop or infinite loop. We've got a while with an else statement, and we've got a while just with a number and an incrementing variable. So let's move on to the next topic now. And the next topic is lists. Okay, so lists. Now, a list is just a type of variable, slightly more complicated data structure than a simple standard variable. And it's a collection of data which is ordered and changeable. You can have duplicate members in a list, and you create a list with square brackets. Okay, and you put items in quotes and they're comma separated. So here we have a list called my list, and inside my list we've put 3 items: a car, a bus, and walk. So these are like 3 different ways that you could get to work or get to college. And then if we print my list, it will print out these 3 items here, okay, inside the square brackets. So a list is a very useful way to collect different items. So we can access lists. We can access the items in a list via the index number, just like we can with strings. Okay, so just like we have strings have a 0 index, which would be car, the bus is the 1 index there, and obviously walk would be 2. So if we were to print my list, square brackets 1, we can access the second value, okay, because we start at 0 of my list. All right, so let's fire up an example over here. Let's save this one. This is my while. Let's save this as while. Let's call it while examples. Okay, save, and let's do file, and let's create a new file, and let's make this file about lists. Okay, so I don't know if anyone's ever gone and got their granny's shopping for them, but we'll make a shopping list. Okay, so my shopping list is equal to. Now, if we do that, that will create an empty list. Okay, so the square brackets mean we're about to define a list. So let's put in the list some simple items. So let's say we're going to go down to the shops for Granny and buy bread, okay, oranges, and something else. What else does Granny want? Newspaper. Okay. Right. So let me put a comment here, and we'll put list example. Okay. And if we were to do something like print, okay, and we want to print the type of the list, okay, we can just plug the value into the type function here. Okay, type's just a function, print's just a function. That's why they're surrounded by these brackets here. So let's run this, okay, and we'll save it as list examples, because we'll probably add a couple more, and let's run it. So there we go. Down here you should be able to see class list. Okay, so the class is just the type of data structure that we have, and in this case it's a list. It could be an integer, a string. We're now introducing a new one to our knowledge, and that new one is a list. Okay, so to print out the list, let's just go print type. Okay, to print the list, we want to do print And then in here, we want to put my shopping list. So let's just close this so we get a fresh window and let's run it. Click OK. And here we go. We have the items in the list: bread, oranges, and a newspaper for Granny there, because it's cold. It's cold, and she doesn't want to walk along to the shops because it's freezing outside. So, like I said in the example, print item from list. We can do exactly the same as we would do with a string. We just access the item by doing the index number. So let's say we only want to print out oranges. We just run that. Press F5. And here we go, look, just oranges here. Okay. We can even say, okay, a little thing in here. Okay, so the item is, okay, put a comma there. And we can run this just like that. There we go. The item is oranges. Accessed a particular item from the list. So to print the items in the list, we can just run a simple for loop. And we can say, we come up with a temporary variable for item, and we use the keyword in the list, print item, and it will print them out one at a time. And we can easily run this on our example list. Looping over a list, okay? And it's just as simple as doing for item in, okay? And it's my shopping list. Let's take away print, we don't want print. And as usual in Python, we do the colon to say what we're going to do with item in my shopping list. And the answer is print item. Okay, let's run this. F5. And there we go. It prints them all out there. Okay. And they, you know, we could take this a little bit further and we can say, let's add a conditional. So looping over a list with a conditional. And let's just pop that in here. So for item in my shopping list, what we can say now, if item is oranges, okay, print item. And then we'll need to indent this underneath that. Let's go for that. There we go. Print oranges. We can even do, I found the item. I don't like the caps. I found the item, and then put a wee comma and put item there. Let's run that. So there we go. I found the item oranges. If oranges was in the list, I found it. Okay, so here's three interesting operations. Here's printing the zero index. We can append something to a list, add something to the end of the list. And we can search what I just showed you there, if item in my list, or if item is the same as, if we're going to give it a string, like I showed you there. Okay, so that just about wraps it up for topic 3. I can give you an example of appending an item to a list. We can just do, so it would be my shopping list dot append. Okay, so let's do my shopping list dot append, and let's add an item to my shopping list. Let's say apples. Okay, and let's print my shopping list and see what it looks like after we've appended apples to it. My shopping list. Let's just take out the P here and run it. Okay, and look, there you go. Apples has been appended or added to the end. Append, add to the end of the list. Let's just put a wee comment here. Append item to end of list. Great. Okay, so that's it for this week's topic. I'll stop the video and we can do some questions in a second. Something to think about as well is, can you think of any possible uses for a list beside a shopping list? I know I put the example of going down to get my granny's shopping, sometimes I would go down to my granny's house, and because she was very old, she would have, usually for some reason, on the back of an envelope that like she had an electricity bill in or something, she would write out a shopping list, things she wanted: apples, oranges, a tin of sliced peaches, a newspaper, and then I would go along to the shops with her list and make sure I got everything for her. And obviously, because maybe I was only 10, I would be able to get like a couple of sweets from the shop or something like that, some chocolate. So this week's homework on the Moodle is problem set 5. As we've done in the last few weeks, edit the file to answer the questions and upload it. And also we've mapped this week to the NetAcad course. So let me just jump over there. This week's homework is to read 3.1.4, 3.1.5. So basically, in the NetAcad course this week, what we want to do is we want to read 3.1.4, 3.1.5, 3.1.6, and 3.1.7, and complete problem set 5. And here's the PowerPoint here as well. So let's have a look at problem set 5. Should just load in a browser. Okay, so question 1. Create a while loop that will print out the numbers from 1 to 1000. Edit the while loop to only print out the even numbers from 1 to 1000. So you may have to do some research to figure out how you're going to do that. How are you going to only print out the even numbers? I'll be interested to see. Create a shopping list, just like you would go along to the shops for your granny, with 5 items, and use a for loop to print each one out once. And hopefully that should be fresh in your mind, because I just showed you how to do that literally 5 minutes ago. Okay, question 4. Create a while loop that will print out the first 3 items only in the list. Okay, so only the first 3 items. Be interested to see how you do that as well. Okay, question 5. Create a for loop that prints only the last character in each of the items in the list. So the very last character of each of the items in the list. Okay, so for example, if it was oranges, it would only print S, oranges. Okay. Finally, this should be a more interesting task. Okay, going to have to do a bit of research for this one. Go online and find a list of all the member states of the EU. Make these into a Python list and then print out all of the countries whose name start with the letters F, P, and E only. Okay? So you're going to need to think how you're going to do that. Well, first of all, you're going to need to go online and find a list of the member states of the EU. Okay? You can put Britain in there if you want. I think we're technically still in the EU for another 2 weeks. Or you can just get rid of us if you don't like us. So once we've done that, make them into a list. Okay, so my list of EU states equals. Then print out all of the countries whose name starts with either F, P, or E. And that is task 6. So I'll be interested to see how you approach this. We're going to have to break this down into stages to get it to work. So that is problem set 5. That's available on the Moodle now.